Tuesdays with Scotty are not the opinions of Scotty White, but the opinions of the lizard people who secretly rule this planet. Thank you.
You're listening to the Mopcast Network.
Wonderful town, wonderful people, places to go, things to see. My love is Mobile, that's my wonderful town. Beautiful homes, schools and churches, entertainment, places to shop. My heart's in Mobile, that's my wonderful town.
Mopcast Network presents
Live from Stupid Mop Studios, located in Mobile, Alabama.
It's Tuesdays with Scotty.
This is the podcast about whatever the hell Scotty wants to talk about.
From pop culture to food, movies, comics, or games.
Literally whatever the hell Scotty wants to talk about.
If you don't like it,
get your own podcast.
Now here's your host, your Native American pop culture spirit guide, Scotty.
I don't know why I keep dancing in one of these intros. I'm a terrible dancer. I don't know why, but I don't know. I hear ska music and it's in. Hi, this is Tuesday, and I'm Scotty, and this is Tuesdays with Scotty. This is the talk show about literally what you just heard in the intro, whatever I want to talk about. So we're going to talk about all kinds of cool stuff today. I've got my friend and the producer of the show, Caleb, over here.
Hey,
He's
everybody.
got to sit through all this stuff.
Yeah.
So that's going to be fun. I want to start with a clarification from last week's episode. Because Caleb, being the producer that he is, did his due diligence on stuff.
I found the manual.
He found the manual. So last week we talked about the Doug game. If you remember Doug from the cartoon Doug.
Yeah.
You know, that Doug. There was a handheld tiger game that we talked about last week, and I was amazed that it had a button that just said Doug. And so Caleb found out what Doug does. Caleb, what does Doug do?
Literally everything in the game. Because so there are a lot. Basically, the Doug game works in that there's a lot of mini games. You're going around town helping people do stuff. And so there's Doug button basically does the main job of that said mini game, depending which mini game you're doing. So like one of them is picking apples. So the Doug button picks the apples. And
so it's the action.
Yeah, it's the action button.
The action button for Doug. So there we go. So clarification. So please stop sending emails. Caleb was on top of it. We now know what the Doug button does. You can, if you like this podcast, you can listen to us on any fine podcast app, and you can rate and subscribe. That helps us out. You can follow me on Facebook at facebook.com Tuesdays with Scotty, and find out more about Doug and other things. You can watch us on YouTube at mopcast.com. YouTube.com/Mopcast Network. It's one of those days. Today we have a special guest. That's Kevin LaPorte of FLatline Comics. He is a dear friend of mine. I have known him for nearly 30 years, and I figured I'd bring him in for that. And we will eventually talk FLatline Comics, because it's amazing that he's from South Alabama like I am, and he has a comic book company, and I want everyone to buy his comics. However, we have passions, and we met because of the Star Wars collectible card game. So, but you won't be bored because it's amazing. It's so amazing. But more on that later. I want to bring up a couple of things before we start.
Oh yeah.
Are you, Caleb? How do you feel about Weird Al?
I love Weird Al.
You ever seen him live?
I have not, unfortunately, but
I'm going to try to fix that for you. I mean, how well versed are you in Weird Al? Let's put it this first question.
I at least know about his movie.
UHF.
Yeah, VHF, which is a very which UHF is a very unknown film.
It's a culty film.
I figure, well, but your basic Weird Al fan doesn't like always know about UHF.
Really?
I think most people think of like his music videos before they think of his film career.
So how do you think the girls would like UHF if I pulled UHF and put it on the the Cult Move Cantina. I think they would hate me.
Yeah, I feel like we should do it though.
I do too. I did it once with the old format when we did Bros, Booze, and Movies. I did it with the guys who did How It Stacks, but the episode didn't turn out right. It was very long, and it just didn't.
Yeah,
the audio wasn't great in it either, and so I scrapped it. And so it's one of those ones that I kind of want to do again. I haven't decided if I want to do it on Cult Movie Cantina or when, if and ever we bring back the Catacombs.
Yeah, because I do feel like UHF might be more of a
Catacombs
film.
kind of film, but it's like.
But it fits both.
It's really, really funny. When's the last time you've seen it?
It's been forever, honestly.
It's on Tubi and a couple other things now.
Okay.
And I watched it during the pandemic. I've watched it since the pandemic.
Okay.
During the quarantine times, it's one of the movies I watched, and I love it. I saw it in the theaters when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And it was up against. It was the summer of '89 when it came out, and it was up against like Batman, Lethal Weapon 2, just all this heavy like
the heavy hitters.
'89 was a huge movie for summer blockbusters, and so it just got nailed. But it's such an underrated, funny movie.
Yeah,
it's just hilarious. And if you don't know, as I'm learning that Caleb says that most Weird Al fans don't know about it, it's Weird Al plays a guy who gets his hands on a small television station that's about to go under, and he starts creating his own programming for it, which becomes a hit. And it's all these, he's really good at parodies, and so it's all these quirky game shows and talk shows. And,
it's almost it feels very much like an SNL movie.
Yeah, very much like it's very skitty, but it's got Fran Drescher's in it, and Michael Richards is in it, and it is just
Kevin McCarthy.
Kevin McCarthy from like Invasion of the Body Snatchers. I mean, and who's really, really, he's the villain, and he's really, really, really funny.
Yeah.
And so, man, we need to do that. But so I have seen Weird Al. This is a weird fact about me. I'm a huge Weird Al fan. I had known about Weird Al from like I'm old enough to hear Weird Al when Weird Al came out. So like Eat It and well, not Weird Al when he came, because he did like Another One Rides the Bus and stuff. But like Eat It and Like a Surgeon, those that was kind of my era. But I didn't really get like deep dive into him until my aunt, my lovely Aunt Judy, for I want to say my 10th birthday or maybe my 9th birthday, bought me a cassette of Weird Al Yankovic's Even Worse.
Yeah. Which
has Fat and Stuck in the Closet with Vanna White, and this song is just 6 words long, and which is a George Harrison parody, and it's and like I became a fan with that album. Like that album turned me into a fan, so much that I embarrassed myself trying to sing one of the songs at a high school talent show, which did not work, but I got through it.
Yeah.
And
the first actual cassette I had of him was Weird Al Yankovic in 3D.
Oh, 3D is a great album. That's got Yoda on it, right?
Yeah. I can't remember. The one I automatically remembered, which is how I remembered which album it was King of Suede.
Oh, King of Suede. No, I think Yoda's actually in Polka Party, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's so many good ones. But one of my favorites though is the UHF soundtrack.
It's Dare to Be Stupid for
Is it on Dare to Be Stupid? All right, so all right.
And then
see, this is me doing this on top of my head. I didn't know I was going to do this kind of deep dive into Weird Al, but this is what we're doing on this show.
To kind of show what kind of fan you got, I switched the camera about to kind of show off.
Oh yeah, So I do. So I'm such a fan, and I'll send pictures of that.
Yeah,
too.
That way it's a little clearer. Yeah,
I'm such a fan, and I've seen him every year since 2016, minus last year. So he came to Mobile in 2016. I saw him then, and on the Mandatory Fun tour, so the last album, and then 2017 he doesn't tour, and however, I'm at Star Wars Celebration in Orlando with Steph, and Steph and I bought tickets for the 501st Bash.
Mm-hmm.
And because the 501st has such a relationship where Weird Al and the band show up during the Bash, and they do a mini concert, and it's all stripped down. It's none of the hit, it's just weird stuff. I mean, just weird. They did Albuquerque, which is
Albuquerque.
It's such a great song, right? But it's like 15 minutes long.
Yeah, because it's literally just Weird Al telling a story with a ton of tangents.
Right, and it's just great. It's like our podcast set to music. Right?
Yeah.
And but he did Albuquerque, and so the very next year for 2018, he announces that he's doing a show that's all stripped down. He's only doing deep cuts. He's just doing just anything weird. And and while I like the hits, don't get me wrong, I love the pastiches he does, and the or pastiches. That's the word I'm looking for. Pastiche he does, and the deep cut songs. My favorite song of his is on UHF. It's a blues song called Generic Blues, and it just cracks me up. I mean, it's so dumb funny, and I love it. And so I got tickets and went to Augusta, Florida. Not Florida, sorry, Augusta, Georgia. And saw him at that show. And that was amazing. And then 2019, he does a show where he's just it's the hits, but he's doing it with an orchestra.
Ooh.
And so I saw that in New Orleans. And then 2020, he's at Pensacon. So we meet him at Pensacon. Which was weird because also Jonah Hill was there too. He used to be on the Nerdist. He's now on Mystery Science Theater 3000. He's the host of that. And Jonah has done a punk album of Weird Al covers. So I have the album, and I have them both signed it because my thing is autographs.
Yeah.
And so I've got that. And then 2021 didn't see him because the world shut down. But 2022, he's announced another tour. And so he's doing the 2018 tour, that stripped down tour, but he's coming to Pensacola. I'll see if I can fix that for you so you can see Weird. If you got the time, I'll get those tickets. I'll buy those tickets.
That'll be a good time.
But so that was our Weird Al. And the reason I'm talking about Weird Al, and I'm about to show this, is that Weird Al has a pinball machine out. Coming out this year. And I sent some video, and I'm going to share some video with you guys too.
Welcome to Weird Al's Museum of Natural Hilarity. I hope you enjoy it!
There's a limited edition version I want so bad. I mean, you saw it in the video, but oh my god, I want that video. I want it so. I don't have nowhere to put it. But I do.
Were we able to convince the G&G guys to look into it?
I could see if I can talk Mike. If I bought it, I don't know how much that limited edition one is.
Yeah.
If I could buy it and then store it here, I think that'd be fun. That may work. See if we can. How much crypto I got? I'm just gonna get my Pinball Machine. Pay Mike to put it together because I sure as hell not gonna put it together. Speaking of concerts, I want to bitch about something real quick.
Oh,
I'm a Pearl Jam fan.
Yeah,
I'm such a big Pearl Jam fan. Like Steve Mop Studios is named after a Pearl Jam song. I mentioned this in the 500th episode. Go back and you can listen and watch that. Pearl Jam's coming to Nashville. I had bought tickets before the pandemic for this tour, and then they postponed, canceled, kind of thing. They postponed that. They were like, we're going to eventually come back. And then I waited almost 18 months and didn't hear a new date. So I went ahead and cashed out my tickets because I was like, they may never come and they may not be able to get the venue, and so, but they announced it a few weeks ago that they're doing a new summer tour and they're coming back to Nashville. And so I was like, cool, I'll get new tickets. And I was going to get tickets for me and my friend Kim because she's in West Virginia. I'm down here, but Nashville's kind of the midway point for us.
Yeah.
So it'd be a great way to, spend the weekend together, catch up. We'll see Pearl Jam. It'd be great. And so the way they're doing it is to stop scalpers and stuff. You had to sign up to Ticketmaster's website, and then there was a selection process where you would get kind of queued in to buy tickets.
Mm-hmm.
So trying to keep bots and things out, which I think great because Pearl Jam had famously fought Ticketmaster about this stuff, and so I was like, well, look, at least they're working together. And so the day comes, and this was just last week. The day comes, and I am waitlisted. I didn't make it through, which is fine. I'll wait. And then I find out on Ticketmaster's secondary market site, which is on their site, so tickets you can just buy that are not direct.
Mm-hmm.
They're on sale. The cheapest ticket was $467, and that's for nosebleeds. And like in this last decade, I have seen Pearl Jam. I mean, I've seen Pearl Jam overall like 10 times, but I didn't spend $400 when I went to the last time I was in Seattle at their home. I mean, I spent like $110 for those tickets, right? So for two tickets, for a piece for 2 tickets, because I did both nights. And then like, hell, Kim and I saw them in 2013 for $25 a pop. And so it's like now it's $400. Like, man. So I'm waiting and kind of hold out. I'm gonna try to see what I can do with tickets. Worst comes to worst, I think I'm gonna go up there anyway, the day of, and see. The closer we get to ticket time, if the ticket prices will drop.
Yeah.
And then see
see at the door.
Yeah, kind of see at the door. Just check the websites. But if I'm waitlisted and tickets come available, they'll come at ticket price, not the scalper price. But it's weird that like Pearl Jam went to go fight scalpers, and they basically just went to the super scalper.
Yeah.
Who super scalped. Oh, it just makes me so mad. Pearl Jam do better.
So I looked into the prices for Weird Al.
Yeah.
It is for the base. So you have to buy the base one first to get the deluxe one.
All right.
The base one is three grand.
For Pensacola?
No. For Weird Al's pinball.
Oh, pinball. Sorry.
And then $1,800 for the limited edition.
So
package.
$5,000 with tax and shipping, I guess. A little over $5,000.
And you can't even get the limited edition right now because it's sold out.
Oh, missed my chance. When I get super rich, I am going to buy that.
But there is a wait list available, so
breaks my heart. But
yeah.
It's one day. One day. I'll do a video. It'd be great. But so last thing before we get to Kevin.
Yes.
You like Paul Dano?
Yes, I do.
I like Paul Dano too. I'm not really crazy about the new Batman movie, but I've been vocal about that on other podcasts. However, Paul Dano's got some great stuff. I really like him in There Will Be Blood.
Yeah,
he plays Weasley really well.
There Will Be Blood is a classic.
I mean, he plays Weasley super well, and like I like him as the Riddler.
Yeah,
I just don't like that movie.
And then also another classic, in my opinion, with him is Little Miss Sunshine.
Oh my God, he's so good.
Such a classic.
Little Miss Sunshine, such a good movie. Such a good movie. Oh, anyway, so I found a video of learning the alphabet with Paul Dano, and I just wanted to share it for no other reason because it's freaking awesome.
Yeah,
so
it's hilarious.
Here's Paul Dano teaching us the alphabet.
A is for B is for
Baby, I'll do things to you I wouldn't do to a farmhand.
C is for
Classic.
D is for
Don't bully me, Daniel!
E is for
Everything poops.
F is for G is for H is for
hunky sad-eyed sex machine.
I is for
I'm Paul.
J is for
You just kind of want to walk through a wall. It's like...
K is for
Kill you!
L is for
It's like this.
M is for
Your mustache is looking really good.
N is for O is for
Oh, they're real.
P is for Q is for
What a great, crazy question. Oh, golly.
R is for S is for
Scones. We heard great things. Scones? I don't know. Scones. Scones, all right.
T is for
This, I've never seen this.
U is for V is for
Vigilante.
W is for
When do we get our money, Daniel?
X is for
Real sex?
Y is for
Made a little lunch money.
Z is for
Zoe.
Wasn't that great?
Yeah.
I feel like I learned something. I would give him a Sesame Street show.
I learned the alphabet.
I did learn the alphabet. So we're just gonna get to Kevin, and so yeah, that's what we're gonna do. Let's just talk to Kevin. Kevin, let's go talk to you. So I'm here with Kevin LaPorte of lots of things, but including FLatline Comics. Welcome, Kevin.
Thanks, Scotty. Good to be here.
You've been on lots of our podcasts over the years. You were even in the 500th episode.
I was. We've talked about varied and sundry things over the decades.
Yeah,
It's been a lot of fun.
So we've been friends since I want to say 97.
Yes, 97, the Sean Valdez tournament of the Star Wars customizable card game. Not collectible card game, the customizable card game.
Right.
Where,
because Decipher had to be different.
Yes, it worked.
It did.
And you came over and played in that tournament that my ex-wife and I were running right here at, in Mobile.
Yeah, we. If I want to say it was at Barnes & Noble.
It was at Sincere Comics.
Was it the first one at Sincere?
It was at Sincere Comics.
Sean, we did some at Barnes. I think we did the next year at Barnes & Noble.
Yes, I think you're right.
But yeah,
they made a much bigger to do about it in '98.
Yeah. That's
so
right.
We had to expand it. I think everywhere was at Barnes & Noble.
Yeah, I remember. I actually remember. I don't remember my light side deck, but I remember my dark side deck because I thought I was. I was playing locally, just we were playing across the bay, and there was this, it was me and then Amanda and like Bubba, and those who are listening who know us know these people. And yes, there's a Bubba. Just Alabama. There's a Bubba. But I had just twicked out this Tusken Raider deck that I thought was going to be like, because you could put 4 Tusken Raiders together, and they would get their power, and then there was all these
interrupts to
add
Destiny
to
draws
and all this kind of crazy stuff. And then that didn't. Luke shows up and what is this?
The mains and the toys.
And that was all that was running that game. That was all lightsabers, remains and toys thing game. But
yes, that's all anybody ran in those.
Jesus
Christ. It was fun.
What was your favorite deck?
Definitely mains and toys focused around Obi-Wan. Yeah, especially controlling the cantina, all those ways to force train.
Right.
And then you just destroyed whoever showed up in the cantina.
You had I remember playing you when you had interesting deck designs because I could never beat you. However, I highlight in my early Star Wars career was tying you. And I remember this because this was at Barnes & Noble. And I tied you because we went to time and we had exact number of cards, but it was with and I don't know if you remember, it was an ISB deck with nothing but probe droids.
I do remember that deck.
And undercovers. And so I just undercovered all my guys so you couldn't, and there was no one for you to fight.
That's right.
The flip side was there was no one for me to fight or get cards.
So nobody was losing cards.
Nobody was losing cards.
We were just playing cards.
We were just hanging out and chatting and just like, but we
probe droids behind every wall.
So for me, it was a moral victory. I took that as a win. That's a win.
That was one of the great things about that game, though, is that you could do whatever you wanted, story-wise, and make it fun or frustrating. Or
right, but there's not been a card game like it since.
No,
really, which is weird because it's truly unique. And while there was in tournament scenes and like tournament scenes in all CCGs, you get things that are the meta, but you could kind of break that and still do pretty good. And you may not always win, but sometimes you could change some things.
Well, it always goes back to in that particular game for me, and this is getting a little bit obscure, but I think the second World Championships after the Dagobah expansion had come out, some guy from England shows up with a Dagobah deck that's just Yoda and Luke on Dagobah, and he takes all of your cards and keeps putting them back in your deck, or he's able to manipulate his deck to draw the cards he wants at exactly the time he needs them, and just destroys everybody at the World Championships that year. Nobody ever had an idea that this deck existed. It totally changed everything about the meta for that game at that time. But the fact that you could do that with a game was the coolest thing about that game to me. You could show up with anything and be competitive or get blown out, but you were going to have some unique design that nobody else had thought of.
What do you think was the most frustrating?
Numbers. What we call numbers.
Numbers was, yeah.
You could make people lose cards out of their deck just based on the destiny number at the top of the card.
Yeah, numbers was annoying.
Yeah, numbers was terrible.
I didn't like the carbon freezing chamber one where you where you could take a prisoner out and just hold her. and would freeze up whatever the light side was doing. You couldn't do anything
when the objectives came out.
When the objectives come out,
the objectives changed everything for the worse. I thought you couldn't be as creative.
Well, I mean, I don't know. There were some that were really fun. I think one of my favorite decks was in Death Star 2. There was welcome to the Cypher chat. I forgot this may be this for a little bit, but in Death Star 2 there was the Bring Him Before Me.
Yes.
And so the big deal about that is that you're trying to, with Vader, trying to cross Luke to the dark side.
Right.
And when Luke is in anywhere with an Imperial, he's automatically captured.
Yep.
So the trick is try not to really ruin a light side player. So you play Mara Jade, who could go undercover. Her regular card could go undercover.
Right.
And so an undercover spy can't capture. And so then you epic duel Luke and put him out of play. Ruins the life because they're losing 3 cards a turn. Just straight up at top of the deck. Just over.
That's right.
And then they can't play a Luke because he's out of play.
That's
and so it's
correct.
just like, that was always fun. Takes a minute.
Yeah,
but
that was the thing about the objectives, though, is that you could gimmick your way into cheap shotting your opponent over and over again so many times.
My other favorite one with that deck is the same deck was you take Vader, capture Luke, bring him to the carbon freezing chamber, freeze him, play Emperor's Prize, complete that. The opponent loses half the deck.
Yes.
Thaw him out and you do it again. And just march him back because it was not that hard once you got it constructed to just keep marching him.
Freeze dried Luke.
It was just like I'll call it chocolate on the outside, Jedi in the middle. I guess we'll jump from Star Wars to Trek. Trek was a good game for us too. Decipher made a Star Trek game too. They made it first in '94, and then Star Wars came in '95, if I'm correct, or maybe '93 and '95. But Decipher was a gaming company in the early '90s, and they were famous for the murder mystery. How to solve a murder party game?
How to make a murder?
How to make a murder, maybe?
I think that's it.
Yeah, How to Make a Murder. It was a party game.
Yeah.
And then they got the license from Paramount to do a Star Trek version, which I never played.
Me neither.
Because I just that doesn't make sense to me.
How to host a murder.
How to host a murder. That's what it was. How to host a murder. I know our listeners are screaming, how to host a murder. And so that's how they got, and then from that they got into card gaming.
Yes, and they had some other strategy game that was completely unrelated to customizable games, but I don't remember the name.
I don't remember the name. I remember the how to host a murder, like How to Make a Murder, How to Solve a Murder. And then so that I learned about Star Wars in '95. I've been in Mobile here at Sincere Comics for the longest time, and then we played in high school, right at the end of high school, and then I guess a year or two later we met you guys. God, man, time flies, bro.
Almost 25 years ago. I think it's August 25 years.
Have you looked at what those boxes are going for?
You had mentioned to me that they were going pretty high these days.
Right.
Yeah, so no, I didn't look.
I was thinking for a while, like, well, I could buy a base set, like unlimited, the first set for, I'll probably get it like $100 and we could do a draft. It could be kind of fun. Like $300.
Yeah. I wondered why a sealed product from that game had not increased in value, because of the age of it, for one thing.
Right.
And the fact that so much of it had been open and consumed already and probably destroyed when the game went away.
Right.
Progressively over the years.
Well, I know Decipher gave a chunk of it to the players committee. And so, like, for years after the game ended, for at least you could go to Dragon Con at least and play sealed tournaments for we were doing that for up to almost 10 years.
Wow.
You could go up there and do sealed stuff, but they knew that was going away, and so they invented a cube format where it had cards and you could draft from that. But which is fun. But of course, I have not played Star Wars. Me and Paul, my brother, played like 3 years ago, 2-3 ago, and it was like I remembered most of it.
I could probably pick it up and play right now and get most of the rules right. I don't think I've played since 2002.
Right. Yeah. But it's interesting because it is a complicated game, and maybe that's why it sticks in the brain.
I think it sticks in the brain because it was, to me, a perfect strategy game, a perfect card. It's like playing with action figures with rules,
right,
and scenarios that are prefab, so that you can do anything you want, but you're telling the story.
Right.
And if your story is better than your opponent's story, then you're going to win. And that's the way I always saw that game, and Star Trek Second Edition, Star Trek First Edition too, but Star Trek Second Edition was just tighter.
Right.
Yeah. That's why I love those games. And that's why very few games since then have come close.
Right. I mean, in fact, the only thing I'm playing right now, card game wise, is the old Vampire the Eternal Struggle game, which is the same way. It's a storytelling game, and that's why I think Magic and DBZ and Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon, they're all still big, but they're just dueling games. There's nothing to it.
Right. It's just
the substance there, not for me.
It's like glorified war,
right,
to me. But we play Marvel Champions, a Fantasy Flight game, and it is ridiculously good.
Cool. I have to try it out.
It's customizable, but not to the same extent. And it's a co-op instead of a competitive game, which I enjoy at this point in life. But you can tell similar levels of story with the Marvel Champions game as with those, but it's not as location based.
Right.
That's one thing I loved about those games, is that we're on goddamn Cloud City, and we're gonna duel it out, in the carbon freezing chamber, and it was fun to me that way.
My favorite Cloud City deck was because I'm gonna divert to rings real quick. I got good at Lord of the Rings toward the end of the first run. It took me a long time to figure it out, and once I figured it out, and Lord of the Rings also a decipher game. These are all decipher games we're talking about.
And I failed to mention it, but it's just as good as the others.
Oh, absolutely. I remember because you had Ground Zero at the time, and you ran the first pre-release.
That was a comic shop, not a disaster site.
Right.
But it turned out to be a disaster site.
like a lot of comic shops in the 90s and 2000s did, right? So you ran the first one, the first pre-release we had for that.
Yep.
And won it because they gave a prop ring.
Still have it.
Still have it?
Yeah, it was funny enough. It was the one thing my ex-wife and I contested in our divorce. The One Ring, of all things, my precious. And it was just a brief argument, but it was of all things, it was a very amicable split. But that was the one thing that we.
She's like, I need the One Ring. It's like, wait, I won that.
That's my precious.
I won the precious. It's mine.
So we've had a good laugh about that since. So that was the one thing we argued over.
Oh, that's so funny. But I remember you winning that one. And honestly, didn't read the Lord of the Rings. All I knew was like Gandalf was a Santa Claus wizard, and I didn't know any. Like I never watched the cartoons. I never read the books, and so it's funny. The card game is what introduced me to that world because it came out before the movie, and then that turned me on to the movies, but the object of Lord of the Rings is that you have 9 locations, and you've got to get your Frodo from the first location to the last location before your opponent kills him.
Right.
If I just listened to that fundamental fact, you could literally run a deck with just Frodo and get him there. I kept doing all this flavor, like I want to add these other people, which you didn't need. My last and my strongest decks I ever created, that last few sets was just Frodo, Sam, and Smeagol, and Sam and Smeagol were there just to die.
Right.
I just wanted to throw them out because. By the end, Frodo's gonna be like, "I'm just killing everybody."
Yeah, by the end of those movies, you want them both to die, anyways.
You're right, Rudy. But anyway, taking that, so I took that idea of just the one character and moved it over to the Cloud City deck and built a whole Sabacc deck with just Lando. It had nothing but Landos, and it would just. People would go to battle Lando, and he would just jump to weather vanes off the board so you couldn't kill him, and then climb back on and then gamble you some more and win your cards or make you lose cards. That's how he won. The only time I ever won a game by more than 60 cards. Because in Sabacc, you can win your opponent's cards. And so I played against a speeder bike deck, and so I won all the equipment stuff out of it. And so I just kept putting it in the deck with traffic. Yeah, God damn, that game was fun, Kevin.
Yes. There'll never be anything like it.
There's not, and it's a shame though. And like, I hate to be the old man, but I'm like, I hate to be like in my day, but yeah, in my day it was better.
And that design team that they had there, that group of guys for that period of time, for my money, for the gaming and the storytelling I enjoy. I don't know that it will ever be duplicated.
No,
to be honest.
No, it's a time and place kind of thing. It's such a good game. And they're like I said, to a testament, regardless if you like the players committee or not, because I know there's a lot of people who are, there are a lot of back and forth on it. But a game that literally has been dead since 2000 had a world championship last year.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And so,
and I get the loyalty. That just wasn't for me. Then I discovered Star Trek Second Edition.
Yeah,
I kind of took over.
2E and World took over.
And I always have too many projects going on of one sort or another. We were running a comic shop, or I'm publishing comics, or whatever. Studying to go to get a degree or whatever's going on in life. So I didn't have room for 2 games at a time. But I do miss that game occasionally, and I don't think I have a single card left from CCG from Star Trek. Star Wars, I mean.
Well, Trek, you and I went to 2 world tournaments.
We went to 2 worlds, yeah. 2
worlds, and I came in 10th and 1.
Yep.
With that annoying DS9 deck I had.
I still have my 7th place crystal.
Nice.
From it'll go to the grave with me. To be honest with you, it was
you in the One Ring, right?
Yeah, I was so close to getting in the Final Four that year, playing the number 1 guy.
Right.
And I had him up on the ropes, and just some fortuitous draws for him on dilemmas just wiped out a team, and you know how that goes.
Yeah, well, that's how I lost. I lost my last match because he destroyed a ship, and I had another ship at the home, the main location, wherever it was called back in the day, and I didn't have anyone else who could staff it. I kept drawing all these I have no staffing, but I'm here to help. You're not help.
That's right.
You can't. You're a doctor. You can't fly a ship.
It was one of the beautiful things about that game, though, is it felt real that way. If your team got wiped out, your ship was just screwed.
Right.
You didn't have the expertise to move it.
Right. And so
you had to build a new crew somewhere else. But
good game.
Great game. And that year in 2004, we walked away not just finishing the top 10, but Decipher was always great to hold dinners for people who ran games and or people who owned shops and things like that. And they gave me a watch that year because I ran more Decipher tournaments than anybody on planet Earth in 2003, 2004.
Oh, that's crazy.
And between Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, Star Trek 2E, Hack, if you remember that one.
Yeah, Hack.
It's a fun game.
Mega Man was fun too.
Yeah. And I ran more and sanctioned more tournaments than anybody on planet Earth for Decipher in 2004 in Mobile, Alabama.
We ran a lot.
We did.
We ran a lot. And we built. It's funny, like some kind of game stores who build a loyalty to Magic, and don't worry, we had Magic players too. Don't get us wrong. We were very pro Decipher.
Yeah,
because that's what we played. That's what we loved.
I've tried to play Magic. It's not for me.
No,
it just doesn't hit my brain that way that I want to play it again. Again, it just doesn't tell the story just the way that I enjoy gaming. And to be honest, after playing Star Wars, it was that's a high bar to set for me, and it hasn't been overcome.
Did not expect this conversation. I should have known we would talk about this. Oh man, I want to. Oh hell, I'll talk about it anyway. My favorite, and we've talked about this privately before, but I'll mention it because I want a public record of it. My favorite time you and me have ever played anything was Star Trek's First E. You always played Romulans, and I was playing Dominion, and this was before I saw DS9.
One of the greatest moments in gaming history.
Right.
I'll never forget it as long as I live.
And so, what's crazy about 1E Star Wars, and we were talking about the storytelling aspect, you could literally do anything, including have the Romulans launch the Phoenix to stop Earth from whatever. You had the Guardian of Forever that could send you to different. They had different timelines in this game. Yeah. It's crazy. And I played the Dominion. This is before I had seen an episode of DS. I didn't know who they were, but they looked neat.
Yep.
They had
Jemadar.
Jemadar looked cool.
Yep.
They had people who could shapeshift, but what's important, they could beam through shields. And so that's what we did. We followed you into the past and beamed onto the Phoenix.
And had a big fight between Romulus and Jemadar.
I want to see that episode of Star Trek.
Yes. I think you defeated that effort for the Romulans to launch the Phoenix.
Right, we're like, you can't do it without pilots. We've killed your pilots. What are you doing?
So they overtook the Phoenix, and the Dominion got the warp drive. So
that's all. I still lost that game, but I remember the last First E tournament I played, or I think we held a regional, and a guy had a board deck that had I don't know if you remember, that had mostly just the space card.
Yeah.
And then he was like, and he was like,
he would just isolate you at the end of the space line.
Right. Just isolate and do all the stuff you needed. And then he was like, but afterwards he was like, don't tell anyone about this deck. I don't need to publish. He was like super crazy secretive. He went on, he did not win Worlds. But
these were the early days of the internet, so we didn't tell anybody.
We didn't tell anybody. We didn't care.
When we put it on Facebook in 1998? No.
Right, no. We Decipher had a message board. But
Oh, man. Wow, I remember that.
And so, Decipher had a message board we were all on that. Yeah, back in the day. God damn, I miss that stuff.
Glory days.
Oh, we'll talk about card games the whole damn day if we don't stop. But so, let's talk about other things that are passionate to our heart. You and I are children of the 80s, and we both love G.I. Joe.
Love G.I. Joe to this day. I just spent way too much on Joe's this week.
What'd you get?
I pre-ordered the new Super 7 Ultimates, the 4 new figures they put up. It was Scarlet Cobra Trooper with the laser whip.
Yeah, with the laser whip, right? Yeah.
Laser whip. It blew my mind. Doc, who I was super excited to see. And they have these like screaming face from his painting from his card back.
Right.
And you can put him with the mortar. You can reenact. Okay, I must own this.
I gotcha.
And
well, that's why I bought the bat, though, because the bat has the head that there's no head. It's just sparks.
Yeah.
Oh.
And Storm Shadow.
Right.
With Excalibur. Excalibur's in that box.
Oh, well, see, I need that. I didn't realize it's Excalibur. I'm going to buy that.
Excalibur's in that box. And when I saw that, because I'm like, I'm going to get Doc. Because these are $55 a piece.
Right, they're expensive.
They look amazing. This is the third wave. They haven't shipped wave 1 yet. They're looking at probably July.
Right.
For wave 1 ships. And I've gotten the other 2 waves because I'm a sucker, and they look ridiculous.
I remember
you're gonna give me a laughing Destro, I'm gonna buy it. I mean,
I liked a couple. I remember talking to you a couple of years ago when this kind of this new wave of Hasbro stuff was coming out, and before Super 7. But I was like, "Hey, are you gonna get?" No, I'm good. I'm not gonna get any of this stuff. I'm good. I'm out. I'm out. Because you had everything at one time.
I had every domestic figure as of 2004 or 5.
Right.
I had every domestic figure ever produced, and quite a few of the foreign figures.
Right.
And I decided to go to med school, and I paid for my tuition for the undergraduates classes I needed by selling off my Joe collection. I paid for every penny of it, selling Joes, and I've regretted that for a number of reasons. But I definitely miss, and I still have a few key figures. I had the first Snake Eyes I ever bought,
right,
and the first Rapid Fire motorcycle I ever bought. Those are sitting in my room right now, and the Major Blood that I got mail ordered. That is in my home at this moment from 1983,
right,
84. Yeah. But everything else I sold, and I have regretted it. But the new stuff is right. This really hit me right in the nostalgia. And it's so next level, so good.
Well, if you can see, Caleb's got the camera shot on Kevin, but you can see. Go back to Kevin. Oh, behind you, I've got the Bat and the Alley Viper, which are 2 of my favorites.
That's the first time I've even seen the new Alley Viper. They're nowhere to be found.
Oh, grab me. Go ahead, take a look at it. Just grab me. If I knew you needed one, I just had one in the shop. I just held it for you.
It looks great.
Oh, he looks amazing.
I like the optical lens on the front of the shield on the helmet.
Right.
Makes it look like Starro.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's such a good figure.
Yeah, I love that.
So, yeah.
I'll get my hands on one. Just being patient.
I'm waiting for Spirit.
Spirit looks ridiculously good.
Just so
Spirit
sick.
Stalker, maybe my 2 favorite molds that they've put out so far.
Right.
There's the job they did on the authenticity of the clothing. It all looks real,
right,
realistic. Stalker's big scarf that they added it's just a touch. It took the figure next level.
So I love what Hasbro's doing with the classified series. I like the I'm not as crazy as their retro series because it just looks a little off. It's a little weird.
Yeah.
But at least they're doing O-rings again.
Yeah, I'm not touching this stuff. I almost went in on the Sky Striker HasLab, and I opted out at the last second.
Did you?
Yeah, I was going to delay until the last minute and make a decision. Because if I was going to go in, I was going to go in on something to invest in and put away. And I just decided not to do it at the last minute. And I do regret it.
Bought 2.
Well, I wanted to see how far they would go into the stretch goals, and then they got to
Scarlet. They got
to the paratrooper.
Do they got the paratrooper too?
Yeah. I'm blanking.
It's not Airborne.
Not Free Fall.
Not Crazy Legs.
Yeah, it'll come to me. But yeah, they got to him as the Night Force version.
Right.
And Ripcord.
Ripcord. There we go.
I got to the Night Force Ripcord, and that's the one I really wanted. And I had fallen asleep. I forgot to put my order in. So I missed out on that. So I'm sticking. I'm going to do the classified stuff, but I'm not getting everything. There's just some that didn't appeal to me as
I'll
much.
work a good deal on when I get the Sky. I got 2.
Okay.
So we'll talk.
But the Super 7 stuff is better to me.
Because it's cartoons.
I hope when it shows up, it looks as good as it looks online.
Like it's so smart that it's the I mean, it's anime. It's the cartoons. They look like the cartoon stuff.
Well, and they keyed on moments or facial expressions. Like they've got a Destro with lava on the mask,
right?
Or a laughing Destro, which will live on my desk for all eternity once it shows up in my house. But to put Excalibur in that box of Storm Shadow just takes it so far. The stuff they put in with Cobra Commander, the globe with the snake wrapped around it, things like that, just so damn cool. The radioactive capsule with snake eyes,
right?
Or the radioactive that one where the eyes are red or something on the head. There's something else with the radioactivity from the first series,
right.
of G.I. Joe cartoons.
They've also put out in 3 3/4 inch, but they put out the blind guy that finds Snake Eyes.
Yeah.
And Snake Eyes are radioactive, like he's a glow in the dark radioactive snake.
Right, with the team of Huskies.
Yeah, Huskies and stuff.
Yards.
Yeah, I've got some of them on order. So I was like, I
have to draw a line somewhere,
but I don't. I mean, I've got my collection's here. I don't have a lot. Kevin was saying I have a few things, but I don't have a lot of stuff. But there's some things like I never thought they would make that.
Right.
And that's something that I'm like, okay, I'll own that. If Super 7 would make Cold Slither.
Don't you think that's probably on their list?
Has to be.
The kind of things that they're doing.
It has to be. Cold Slither has to be on the list.
I'm sure that's going to happen.
Shipwreck and Mara.
Yeah.
Would be great.
That's going to happen. The Wiper.
Oh, the Wiper. Why is it? Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's just talk our favorite episodes too. While we just might as well talk about, because this will all mix in this stuff, because I love the G.I. Joe cartoon. In fact, during the pandemic, and it's Hasbro was smart enough to put it on a 24-hour loop on YouTube.
Oh yeah, you can bet I introduced my then 7-year-old to the show,
right?
Because she loved it,
right?
I mean, because it still holds up. It's funny. It's kind of goofy.
Right.
There's enough action to be interesting.
What I think is missing in the movies is that it's too military, less sci-fi, and less like. At the end of the day, you can't take it serious. You can't. And so, like, I think the 2 movies, I haven't seen Snake Eyes yet. It's sitting on my desk, and I'm just like, I hadn't watched it.
I haven't watched it either.
Because I was just like, I can't make myself watch it.
I can't either. It's not even the same character.
Right. And so, I'm really curious about, there's a way to make this work. You can have your cake and eat it too if you just follow the path that's there.
Yeah.
It'll work. It can be goofy. Goofy's fun.
Well, you think they would figure that out from what's worked and what hasn't for Marvel and DC,
right?
And particularly things like Deadpool,
right?
Where it's like if they took Deadpool and made it like a serious martial arts movie set in the X-Men universe, nobody's gonna care.
No,
that's Wolverine or Gambit or
right.
whatever. But they keyed in like goofy humor, and that's something that was missing from those G.I. Joe movies. It wasn't smart. The roster was too small.
Right.
There weren't enough fun cameos from other characters. I don't care if it's big actors, but just give us some of the characters on the side.
Quick Kick show up for some reason. I just
seriously,
right?
But by the way,
cross country.
When the hell is Quick Kick going to show up in one of these new toy lines? Quick Kick is missing in action.
Yeah, that's
super important character.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everybody loves him as John Wayne impressions.
Right.
The whole 9 yards. Bring in Quick Kick.
Yeah.
I'm happy with most of what they've done, but that's one character I really love to see more of.
Yeah, and the roster is huge, though.
Yeah, but
I tell you who I'd like to see. And we have a Zartan, and we're getting a Zarana. I would love to see the Dreadnoughts, and I figure they'll come first. But imagine classified Road Pig.
Road Pig has to happen. He's one of the most iconic designs that they ever made.
Who was never in the show, who should have been. But
and you're talking about
like
he's a Wave 7 1988 figure.
Right.
I mean, he was late.
Right.
And there were some good figures in those last through 89, 90.
Right.
There were some really great figures, but Road Pig was the class of those 3 or 4 years. Just the center block on a stick.
Right.
The flat top with the red stripe.
I mean, he looked like he's straight out of Mad Max. Which
a perfect dreadnought.
Well, perfect dreadnought would look like he's straight out of Mad Max, which fits Australia.
Yep.
Oh, so good. Such a great figure.
Yeah, and I hope we're going to get like a 3-pack of Buzzer, Ripper, Torch.
Right.
And then a Road Pig not long after that.
Yeah.
I mean, I know people are beating down their doors online to make Road Pig.
I mean, we're getting Crocmaster, which is weird.
I thought that was really weird. And
but he looks great.
He looks great, but he is pretty much a larger version of the 3 3/4 inch figure. I mean, design wise.
Right.
But I wasn't unhappy with that, especially when you're in a full size gator.
No, and many like their baby gators too. With it, you get a lot of and the gator's 6 inches a foot. And he's huge.
It's gigantic. I mean, it's the scale.
It's so
surprised me.
So
yeah, no complaints there. But I'm curious to see what they do with the Super 7 and the classified lines. There's so much variety to choose from.
Right.
Like, I can't see the classified people going to Doc, but the fact that Super 7 put out a great Doc, I mean, that's a second wave figure from '83, and a pretty obscure figure, but he has a history in the comics. His daughter is now Doc. He's retired, and she took on his name, and there's like such a heritage throughout the G.I. Joe line. But to get that figure in his classic fatigues,
right,
his med box, his hat, the aviator sunglasses that he always wore, the screaming face, and the mortar, just looks amazing.
And realistically, there's not a lot of black G.I. Joes. There's a handful. We've got Stalker, Alpine, Iceberg, who's also voiced by Destro,
the guy from Texas who loves cold weather.
Roadblock.
Yeah, and there's some drivers that I'm not thinking of.
Right, but there's only a handful. So
right.
But starting out with Doc is great. I think it's great. Again, so some of your favorite episodes, some of the episodes you remember, things you remember.
Well, to be honest with you, the funnier ones stand out to me.
Sure.
My favorite, because when I was 12 years old, I'm quite a bit older than you. When I was 12 years old, I came home from school, and that first episode was on the Mass Device 4 episode or 5 episode
5 episodes,
show.
Monday through Friday.
Yeah, and I remember things I ate during watching those.
I remember the first time I was 6, I think 5 or 6 when I first. But I remember where I was when I watched it every 5 minutes. I don't remember quite what I ate, but I
remember things I said to my brother while we were watching the show. I remember just so much about those days, because it was, for one thing, it was a lot of fun. It meant a lot to me because I had quite a few of the straight arm figures at the time,
right?
So I was really into the story, and that one just lives in my memory. The coolest one to me, though, is the alternate reality 2-parter, where was it Steeler,
Grunt, and Breaker.
3 first series guys that don't get a lot of play in any format, honestly, end up in an alternate reality where the Baroness is a double agent who really works for the Joes.
Right.
And Steeler, at the end of this thing, he's in love with the Baroness and stays in the alternate reality.
Well, so does Grunt and Breaker.
Yeah,
they're like, we could form because they're like, they're not making our figures anymore. We're just going. We're going.
So yeah, they stayed in the alternate reality.
So that also has Lady J, Flint. There's another later Joe, and I can't remember who else was in it. But my favorite part of that whole episode is the end of it, because the premise is they fall into a dimensional door or whatever because of a Cobra device. And they end up in this alternate reality. Only a 2-parter. And the end of the second part, at the end of it, when the Joes decide they're going to stay and the ones are going to leave, they're all talking about it. They're like, we need to find that doorway. And Flint literally goes, it's over there. Bye, everybody. and it was a moment like, and there it is.
But just in my head canon for G.I. Joe, that's Flint.
Right.
Like, he knew the whole time. He kept it in his back pocket. And he's like, hey, jackasses, it's over there.
They're all hugging and stuff, saying goodbye. It's like, we got to go.
He just used it 50% just to impress Lady J. So.
I like the speaking of two-parters, I like the two-parter where Cobra decides to kidnap certain members of G.I. Joe's family. So Scarlet's family, Spirit's family, Quick Kick's family, and the A story of this is that there's a crystal that they've discovered that can't be vibrated or explodes. So they're going to carefully transport it very slowly so Cobra can't, so they can destroy it before Cobra gets it, get their hands on it. And Cobra decides to get their hands on it by kidnapping other Joe's families to brainwash them.
Right.
And it's written by white guys, so it's like the stereotypical Indian group. But Spirit's grandfather, who's very, very Iron Eyes Cody, just like, and just very, but apparently because he's Native American, he's resistant to the mind control device. So he's really fighting it. It's like, I'm like, go my people.
Spirit had that iron will, though.
He did.
He really did. That was the thing about him, his stoicism and his iron will. But to be fair, though, Scarlet's family, who were supposed to be from Atlanta,
right,
a large city,
right,
seemed like a family you would find in The Hills Have Eyes. They were so backwards redneck. I was like, I know people from Georgia, and they do have thicker accents than people from Alabama for the most part. But it's kind of an attractive drawl, and not like West Virginia, Hatfields and McCoy's hillbillies. I mean, so they didn't really do their cultural homework on any level.
Shipwreck's family too, because he's got the little boy, the nephew. I love Shipwreck.
I hate Shipwreck.
Do you?
That's the one Joe I think I really hate. I hate his outfit. I hate his voice. I've always hated
Neil
Shipwreck.
Flynn, man.
I had one, and I would never display him. I put him in a bag in a drawer.
Really? I got one.
I hate Polly. I hate the whole shtick.
I got my first one as an adult last year in that collection I bought, and sold it to a Navy guy. I mean,
I'll tell you, despite my hatred for Shipwreck, I understand that he isn't a lot of people's favorite Joe.
Well, because
he is nowhere to be seen in the modern collection,
right? Which is crazy because because in the show he's not in you learn that he's not in the military,
right?
He's a merchant marine.
Yeah.
So he's they first meet him in the second run, the Revenge of Cobra.
Yeah.
And they're in the desert, and he's got a ship that
that's right, just sitting in the sand.
That can ride the sand.
That's correct.
It sails the sand. And Mutt and Flint find him.
Back to your sci-fi,
right? Yeah. And so, and you find it because I always thought he was military, but there's an episode where they do Cobra hacks again G.I. Joe's computers, and they promote Lifeline, who's a pacifist, Shipwreck, and is it Beachhead?
Yeah, Beachhead.
Who's from Auburn, Alabama?
Yes.
Because file cards, man, Larry Hama. and because of they can't Shipwreck doesn't have any military expertise.
Right.
Lifeline's a pacifist, and Beachhead is just
a drill sergeant.
Yeah. He's just enough, and so it's all discombobulated. That's the first time I found out he wasn't in the military.
The interesting thing about the cartoons is that the continuity is almost completely separate from the Hama written comic.
Right.
And look, I love Larry Hama. He created this whole thing and 99% responsible for the popularity of G.I. Joe. But I enjoy the kind of quirky sci-fi stuff. Mm-hmm. And I enjoy the comics. I've read them all. But the cartoons more than I enjoy the comics, weirdly enough.
Did they just also pick up Quick Kick? Quick Kick is somebody they also picked up.
Yes. Yeah, that was part of their build for the new line.
Right, but they were like, there's in the cartoon, they were like, oh, well, he can kind of fight, so he'll fight Cobra with us. And he just hangs out with them.
Yeah. He had some interesting episodes as well. One where he fought Storm Shadow with some kind of special sword. Maybe it was Excalibur. Again, I can't remember.
Yeah, it's the Excalibur episode.
Yeah. But I don't know why Quick Kick's John Wayne voice all the time doesn't bother me, but Shipwreck's bad Jack Nicholson / Christian Slater voice drives me up the wall.
Well, the guy who played Quick Kick is going to be at convention you and I are going to do.
Oh, no.
Yeah, he's going to be up there, and Storm Shadow's going to be up there, and the guy who played Duke was coming, but he had surgery recently, so he's canceled. So
I saw that.
Well wishes to Michael Bell, who's
absolutely
Star Trek, Star Wars, alumni. Plus, he's in every cartoon we've ever listened. Yeah.
Legendary.
For 20 years, the portal has been closed. It is about to be reopened. This is a detour, a twist in time, a curve of space. Journey into man's imagination with America's most fantastic storytellers. Coming soon to CBS, all new tales from the Twilight Zone.
What if I told you that one guy felt so pushed by the government that he felt he had nowhere to turn? That in his only course of action was to build a tank and lay waste to the town he lived in.
Yes, I read this story.
Seems reasonable.
Build a tank?
Build a tank.
Yep.
Okay.
Granby, Colorado.
That absolutely makes sense because they're high.
And more ways than one.
Lack of oxygen, and what oxygen they get altitude. Is weeded.
Not just altitude.
Is a town in a high basin of the Rocky Mountains.
Oh, so double high, triple high.
There you go.
It has a population of around 2,000, but it's about 20 miles from the Rocky Mountain National Park and 100 miles away from Denver. So that'll give you an idea of where it's.
So 4 hours to get to Denver by tank.
Right, 4 hours by tank. Tourism is a draw to the area, but the townspeople think of it as a less than a boutique town like Aspen, and more like a service town that has a couple of banks, a concrete plant, a few businesses that cater to the tourism. It's a small town.
Does concrete grow that high?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
It's high as an elephant's eye.
Okay.
It has a good old boy element. Good, honest, hard-working people. Marvin Heemeyer owned a small muffler shop in Granby, Colorado. He made a living repairing mufflers, and by all accounts, was a wizard at welding. You can be a wizard at anything. That's a thing you can be a wizard at.
So.
He did good work, which caused his business to thrive, and the success allowed him to expand. In 1992, he bought 2 acres of land from a federal agency that was organized to handle the assets of failed savings and loans associations. So back in the 80s, a bunch of savings and loan banks failed, and they had a lot of property and stuff they had to get rid of. And it took them years to get rid of all of this stuff. And so in 92, they have some land in Granby that he's going to buy. So he bought 2 acres for $42,000 to build his muffler shop. The problem was that the townsfolk built a new sewer line that was around the muffler shop and not close to it. So it was going to cost him like $80,000 to hook into the sewer line.
Which is more than what he paid for the land.
Which is more than he paid for the land.
That is sky-high pricing.
Right. And so he... look at you. He got jokes, people. And so... he wasn't willing to pay a good deal of money to tie into the existing sewer seal, and this began his problem with the local government because you have to tie into sewer and water in this town, or people get upset.
It's like septic tanks or whatever.
Right.
Or,
right.
A pit.
Right.
Like, don't go near Granbury's pond.
Right.
It's a shithole.
We call it a gray hole. Let that gray water fall into it. Heemeyer complained to the town council about other businesses and lashed out had land out and other business owners. Anyone he felt he was taking advantage of him, he lashed out about. So he's not making friends in this whole thing,
which is odd. You think he wouldn't be so outspoken if he's literally a muffler guy, right? Like that's to quiet things. And now he's like, no, fuck that. My job may be quieting things, but I'm gonna be loud.
Yeah, he's quiet all the time.
Yeah. He's got to let loose.
Yeah.
Gotta let that steam out.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, my car once a week doesn't go, man, my muffler's been working. Let me let out a belch. Like, so he's not in the good old boy network.
No,
is
he's
what
not.
You're
He's
saying.
out. And the reason why he's out, he moved. The reason why he's in Colorado is that he was in the military.
Okay.
And then after he got in the military, he said, "This is kind of a nice place for I want to."
How old is he here in the 90s?
He's in his 40s.
Okay.
He's
so at a reasonable age.
Yeah.
Right. So he's our age.
Yeah, definitely a reasonable age.
Reasonable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
All in that club now.
Yeah, none of us lose our mind for the littlest things of anymore.
Prior to this, he bought land with 2 cabins on it. He rents one cabin out. He stays in the other cabin. He enjoys 2 things in life. He enjoys sitting in his hot tub and looking out onto his land.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Sounds reasonable.
It's
Peaceful.
Cold. In Colorado, the hot tubs are great.
Yeah, there
I'm a
you
big
go.
fan of hot
Perfect for
tubs.
it.
Yeah.
And then he also loves snowmobiling.
Okay.
And there was a group that were called the Tuesday Snowmobilers, and they would go every Tuesday. They would not work, and they'd go snowmobiling.
So Colorado for mudding. Got it.
Basically
Yeah.
what they were doing.
But making enemies with the neighbors seems to be a theme for these type of stories you share.
Yeah.
Right.
Speaking of neighbors, Cody Dochev bought Certified Ready Mix in 1972, which at the time only produced 5,000 yards of concrete a year, which is not bad, I guess. But over the years, much like Tommy is a smart businessman, he increased it to 40,000 yards and changed the name to Mountain Park Concrete. NCP, or MPC, is a family affair with Cody's son Joe and his wife Susie helping out. They're the 3 owners. Business was good, and the family was looking to build a new batch plant, and they actually tried to buy the land Marvin bought at the 1992 auction, but lost out to Marvin, and so they bought the land next door.
Which is closer or further away from the sewer?
Closer.
Okay.
And then they had no problem going into the easement. They had
So my first thought is, why doesn't he just let them pay for it, and then he just runs a line to their place?
That was an option. He kept refusing it.
Okay.
He probably couldn't get anything written in concrete, so he didn't want to, take his chances.
This is why we love you.
Yeah.
Of course, they needed more land, so they approached Marvin, and according to them, there was a handshake deal made to buy Marvin's land for $250,000.
That's not a bad turnaround.
Bet.
He
5
spent
times.
what? You said 42?
Yeah.
Right.
For 250?
Yeah, to 250.
That's a pretty
6 times.
Done?
Yeah.
I could live like a king in Mississippi for $250,000.
That's true.
Right. But then no snowmobiling, but you could mudmobile.
Right, you could mudmobile.
Mudmobile and crawfish. Let's go.
That's all it is.
Casinos. Turn that back into 40K.
So Joe Dochev, Cody's son, went to the town council to get the ball rolling because, hey, we want to build this plant, which is great for the town. More jobs, more business. And so they had to get the area rezoned, and which they do. But while they're doing that, Marvin has changed the price to $375,000. He upped it because he said
$125,000.
But in his mind was
like another 50%.
Well, if you're going to get it rezoned, that makes my property more valuable. So you're going to have to pay for that value.
So he went back on the handshake deal.
Right. And then he decided to do it again, and they raised it to $1 million.
Oh.
So paid 42.
Yeah.
Wants to sell it for $1 million. So they were cool with the 375 or 325 or whatever.
They almost were going to pay that, and then they were like, "Well, if we have to pay it, they're going to have to pay it." They were a successful business.
And then he tried to do 300% on top of that.
Then he added another 0.
Yeah.
They're like, wait, hold up.
Added a few more zeros.
Yeah. Let's add a 0 before the decimal point.
So the Dochefs bought land on the other side and left Marvin alone because that's all they could do.
Yeah.
The town council went after him about the sewage line, and he said, "Well, the concrete plant's not giving me an easement," and the concrete plant's like, "No, we're totally give you an easement. We will totally do that." And he's like, "No, they won't give me an easement." And so they fine him like $100 a day for basically having no sewer line.
So
what is he shitting in at this point?
So that's my question: has he developed this land at this point?
No, he's got his muffler shop on it, which he doesn't operate all the time because he's hot tubbing and
has to poop at home.
Well, yeah. So like, is there just? I mean, I guess it's just welding.
There's
no shitter there.
Well, he's a creative guy, and from what I understand, he's got tanks built so that can that he can use a toilet, and it goes, but it's like his own septic tank he's built.
Okay,
it's not. But
he has a history of building tanks.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he has his own system in place. His own systems in place.
Right. And the town's like, no, we have a thing, and he's like, oh, you're only picking on me because I'm not one of you. I'm an outsider, and the town council, like the oldest family, has got members on it, and the mayor's been there for a billion, that kind of stuff. And he's like,
I kind of see his point, right?
Yeah.
So like, if you own land and you want to be able to do something, like I own property, and if you want to be able to do something, you have to ask somebody, can I do this to my property? And to an extent, I get it, right? Like, if you're in this nice neighborhood, you don't want to put a trailer on it. That kind of kills everyone else's property value. But like, oh, well, I want to, put this thing. Oh, well, no, you can't do that. Then why do I own this?
Dude, if I want to dig a hole 50 feet down and shit in it,
right,
I should be able to.
You paid $42,000 for that property.
That is my $42,000 shithole.
Right, exactly.
Literally.
So I kind of get it.
And then you get it back to 5 feet below the surface. You fill it in. You dig another hole, and you're good for another 20 weeks.
And don't get me wrong.
I don't know how long it takes to fill a 50-foot hole of shit.
Don't get me wrong. I understand when I get this land, they say they've built the sewer line around your land, which kind of seems shady because after you buy it, and then they're like, oh yeah, to tie into it's going to cost $80,000.
Oh, so it was after he. I guess I missed that. Yeah. After he bought the land, they did the.
Yeah, they did the line around it. So,
yeah.
So he's got.
Okay.
He's got I understand.
Other than the fact that he's hard-headed for not just tying into the other people's.
Right.
And like other than that, I'm on this guy's side so far.
And I will say that. In the articles I read about this, I'm doing the research on this. It is a lot of he said, she said stuff. So he says that they wouldn't let him tie into an easement. They say we had no problem with that. Of course, we wanted him to do that. It's and so
maybe they're trying to charge him for it, or he didn't want to.
Yeah, but none of that I can. But it was like it's not 100% clear. So Marvin. So
it was anything but an easement. It sounds like a difficult minute.
Yeah, difficult minute. So again, the Doshers bought the land on the other side and left Marvin alone. So Marvin took that as a slight, and over the next few years did his best to get the rezoning stopped. He tried every legal trick in the books, including calling the EPA to slow down the progress. But in the end, the city changed the zoning and cleared the path for the concrete plant's construction. The town also fined Hemeyer for not having water sewer line. They charged him $100 for a day, and that he paid a month's worth. So he paid $3,000 or whatever it was, and he signed it to like the liars and cheaters of the town. That's what the note was. And then they sent him the check back because they said it wasn't clear that way. Mm-hmm. And so there was a whole thing about that, which is
he's kind of my hero. So far we're okay. Have you heard that story about the guy who like got fined something and he like brought in pennies?
Oh
right.
Yeah.
So I mean it's kind of like that, right? Here's your check.
Here's your
he would eventually lease, then finally sell the property to another realtor that owned a business called the Trash Company. When I looked up the Trash Company, they're an independent trash pickup company, and so they used it to store their trucks in the winter because the winters suck in Colorado. So that's what, and as part of the agreement, he leased a portion of the land and built a metal shed on it, and this is where he would build his revenge. The shed became his home. He had food, television, and a cot inside.
But no bathroom.
It had a bathroom, too, but I just didn't put it in there.
Okay.
He spent the next 6 months to a year putting his wizard-like welding skills to use. He bought a Komatsu D355A bulldozer from an auction in Fresno and had it trailered in. And that was, like, it's huge. It's a huge-ass bulldozer, and had it trailered in, and like it was so big it was a spectacle for the town to see this thing coming in.
Little did they know they were watching the demise.
What is that? Like, hold on. So I'm in the wrong business. If he's fixing mufflers and can buy this land, I mean, I know you said he got out of the service,
right? But he had some businesses outside.
Okay,
and it's not clear what those were, but he had some income come from somewhere else.
Okay,
and so he was basically comfortably. He wasn't. I mean, he lived frugally, but he wasn't.
He built shit tanks,
and so he did. Yeah. He did his mufflers. Like I think the muffler shop was his fun money.
Okay,
and he had other business take care of like everything else. So as long as I can pay my.
It's just
snowmobile stuff.
Like talking with our friend Bubba. I know how much tractors cost, let alone a bulldozer the size you're speaking.
But apparently he got the bulldozer at an auction and got it for a great price.
Because he's thrifty.
That's probably still $200K. Like,
no, it wasn't. It wasn't that much.
Okay.
It's like used one, so it wasn't that much. So he took Katsumu Komatsu, that's what it is, D355A bulldozer, and armored it
That
with...
sounds like a droid.
Right.
Come on. I told you I was going to get Star Wars on this.
And armored it with 1.5-inch thick steel plate that cover the cabin, the engine, and parts of the track.
1.5 inches.
That's...
I mean, like regular.
Oh, I know how big that is. I see it every day. What?
Sorry. I'm not going to talk about man's shortcomings. I'm going to raise me better than that.
And yet you made a pun about it.
What did I?
You said shortcomings.
I know.
Yeah.
So, in places he had put steel plates that sandwich concrete, making them the poor man's version of composite armor.
So, please tell me it was Mountain Concrete's company's concrete.
That would be awesome.
I did not find out for sure.
Hey, neighbor, can I borrow I don't know, 7 yards of? I don't know why you measure concrete in yards. That's very weird to me.
This made the vehicle.
What's it for? This project.
Finally building a shitter.
Yeah.
This made the vehicle impervious to small arms fire and resistant to explosions.
Ceramite. He made ceramite, which is a 40K reference. So.
Marvin put in bulletproof plexiglass windows to protect the slots he used to look outside. He installed a closed-circuit cameras, 5 of them outside the vehicle, with the video monitors on the inside. The cameras were protected by bulletproof Lexan and had compressed air nozzles that would blow dust away from the camera lenses.
Can we pause for just a second?
Yeah.
When the zombie apocalypse happens, I want this dude.
Wow, we just go to Bubba's. Bubba makes that. Bubba makes that in 2 days.
And he's got peanuts.
and he's got peanuts.
It had onboard fans and an AC to keep him cool. He had made 3 gun ports, one for a 50 caliber rifle, one for a 308 semi-automatic rifle, and a 22 long range rifle.
This thing's missing a flamethrower.
Word. Once inside, he had no intentions of getting out.
Did he have a fridge?
Yeah, he had food.
Okay.
He had
fatties. No, it's just it's like
give it up.
It's like 7 shelves of Vienna sausages.
It's all spam.
Yeah,
it's all spam.
On June 4th, 2004, Heemeyer.
2004. So it took him that long.
No, he bought the property in 92.
Right, so
and
12
then,
years.
But that's not when he had the issues.
Yeah, right, 12 years. I think he spent about a year building this thing.
Yeah, so.
And the way they described it was he built it at night, so no one knew he was building it. The question was, how do you miss a guy building a tank? And they're like, he built it at night, no one was around.
Right.
And no one saw him. He
but
lived
I mean,
there.
I assumed it was in a building. So
it's in his she shed.
Yeah, he made a she shed for it.
Right. So you wouldn't see it anyway.
Well, I mean, you probably see welding and hear the
he works on mufflers and stuff. Why would you suspect?
No, he sold that land.
I bet this guy's building a tank,
to the truck company.
And so by this time, he believes that God is challenging him to do this.
It's now manifest.
Yes, it's one of those guys. And he knew, he had the epiphany to do this while he was in his hot tub after getting pissed off at a town council meeting. And then he got this bulldozer, and it barely fit through the door of the shed, but it was just it was so perfect, it was divine. So he knew right then, if it didn't fit, he'd been he probably been
it's not meant to be.
Not meant to be, but it's it was meant to be.
So
then on the way out, he has to tear it down.
Yeah, I was going to say, because he just added 3 feet of steel and concrete to each side.
So on the way out, he just tears the shed down.
But he did say once he got in, he had no intention of getting out, so fuck the shed.
Right.
Yep.
On June 4, 2004, Heemeyer took to the streets of Granby. He started his attack on the streets about 3 p.m., bursting through the wall of his shed.
I knew it.
Yep.
That kept his quote-unquote Killdozer secret. Killdozer is what the media ended up calling it.
I gotta look this up.
Did Yakety Sax start playing?
So his first target was
the city council.
Nope, the concrete plant. First he flattened because they're next door.
Oh
yeah, next door.
So first he flattened the buildings of the concrete plant that in his mind started this all.
It flattened the buildings.
He then went on to get revenge on the others that had wronged him.
How fast is he going? Does it ever say?
It's not fast. He's just
right.
Yeah,
like
it's a
because I
tank.
can see somebody like, no, stop. He's gonna get me.
So police were called to the scene and they fired an estimated 200 rounds into the vehicle, but that didn't hurt it.
Obviously,
the guy who owns the concrete plant got another tractor to try to topple it, like they were going to attack the treads to try to flip it.
Footloose 2.0.
And so he goes to do that, and it picks up 3 wheels of his track because it's so massive and it's so heavy because it's got this armor on top of it.
Yeah.
And so they tried that a couple of times, and then the last time, Heemeyer got his 50 cal and shot at the other tractor. Luckily, it hit the shovel part.
Yeah.
And didn't get to go through the metal plate of that. But that's when Cody, the concrete plant man, was like, "I'm out. I'm done.
Yep.
I'm done. That's it."
That was a Barrett, y'all. I'm done.
I don't even think I'd have went that far, right? Like, I'm not gonna go do that.
But if he's got a Barrett, which is the 50 cal, giant gun,
I'm not testing my Kevin Bacon.
No. You can dance your way into the hearts of them. So all I can see, though, because it's like Granbury or
Granby, yeah.
Granbury. Like, all I see is Barney Fife.
It's very
right.
It's very
Mayberry-ish.
It's very Mayberry-ish.
So now I got like, oh shit, here's a tractor. Let me get my bullet. Like, that's how I see the deputy in this thing. He's like trying to dig out of his pocket.
In the closest terms I can think for us, think Wilmer.
Ooh.
Whoa.
Dude, you know what? You let the tractor have it then.
Right.
Yeah.
Big Wilmer. Big Wilmer. All right, so
tractor wins.
Yep.
So the police were called onto the scene and fired an estimated 200 rounds into the vehicle, but that didn't hurt it.
Dude, that guy was tired at the end of his shift because there was only one cop.
Right.
He's like,
he's got a load of 200 bullets. Bam.
No, he's going bang, 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 bang.
Yep.
Hold on.
There's no magazines.
No, it's a 6-shooter. Yeah. Bang, 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 bang.
There was one of the
I dropped one.
One of the deputies was like, I saw it and then I put back my shotgun and got my heavy assault rifle and went after it.
So this town is big enough to have heavy assault rifles.
Well, they militarized the police back in like 2001, so everyone got us. Everyone,
right.
They were like, "You get an assault rifle. It's Bush's America. You get an assault rifle. You get an assault rifle. Fuck, you want a tank? We got 3 of those." This town didn't big enough for a tank. Sorry.
Okay.
Marvin turned his sights on and destroyed the Liberty Savings Bank.
Because why not?
Mountain Parks Electric Company, the Maple Street Builders, Gamble's General Store, the Granby Town Hall, the Sky High newspaper office, and Copycat Graphics and Printing.
What did they do? What did the graphics place do?
So Copycat, he had targeted the Gamble's General Store. That was the last thing he hits. But Copycat's next door, and so to turn around, he ends up hitting Copycats.
Bystanders.
So literally, it got copycatted from Gamble's.
Exactly. He also smashed a number of cars, street lamps, road signs, of course.
Because I've seen movies. Of course you do. You can't drive a tank down the street without one half of it going up over the cars on the side of the road.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So the attacks were personal.
You think?
At the Savings and Loan, he targeted the corner office where a woman who sat on the zoning board worked.
Oh, man. That's messed up.
The town's mayor recently died.
I'm laughing, but I'm hoping like nobody got run over.
Spoiler alert, miraculously, no one was injured.
Okay, that's so good. Now it's funny.
Yes, right. So you laugh all year. You're allowed to laugh.
Shut up.
The town's mayor recently died, and Marvin destroyed his home where his 82-year-old widow lived.
Wow. But she made it out.
Yeah, she made it out.
Or was she
She was
bingo?
napping 30 minutes before.
Well, but again, it's like,
right.
He's coming.
Yeah, but I'm leaving.
And like destroyed the house. Destroyed it.
She was at bingo. Maybe she was at bingo.
Luckily, a group of children had just left the town hall where the also held the library, which where they had their own little story time afternoon.
Huh.
Where they're now telling this story.
Marvin destroyed many records and, of course, the town archives.
Oh, I'm sure he broke some records.
He stopped the dozer outside a propane company and tried to fire a rifle at the tanks, hoping that would cause an explosion.
Oh, that's a great idea.
And
but
so,
it's not a movie.
Right. So he's got like and not like little propane tanks, like the industrial size tanks.
Probably more heavily armored than his tank at that point.
They would have exploded. He was firing incendiary rounds at it.
Oh, okay.
And so they would have exploded. However, his gun point for the 50 cal was at his rear, and he had one of those diggers at the rear, and so he couldn't get the gun positioned high enough to shoot past the so he was basically shooting the shit out of his tail the whole time, but he couldn't get enough to. He did manage to have a ricochet and shoot a transformer, which caused power outages.
Yeah. That's a good ricochet.
Yeah.
He had a plan.
He did have a plan.
He had a little map. 1, 2.
Well, he had at least
3.
a year of daytime to plan.
Yeah, he planned this.
The town used earth movers to try to stop him. So those big, stuff they grate the ground before they pave, and that didn't stop it. And the guy, there's video of the guy getting hit, and they're like, "Why did it stop?" He goes, "He's in a dozer." Like, I knew this wasn't going to work. The rampage ended where he took the Killdozer to the general store, which was owned by one of the town board members. So that was the Gambles.
Yeah.
The thing by then the machine was leaking fluid and had black smoke pouring from it.
So attrition.
What he didn't know, and a lot of people didn't know, is that Gambles had a basement, and so this is what stops it. He's on the outside of Gambles and just smashing into the wall, and his tread ends up into the side of the, and then the engine seizes up, and the bulldozer stalls. The police surround it because they don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
They're expecting, because in most of these situations, it's going to be a shootout.
Yeah.
At 4:30 p.m., there was a muffled shot heard from the inside. Marvin Heemeyer took his own life. It took hours to make sure the machine was not booby-trapped, and to get through the armor, they tried explosives to get it out, which didn't work. And they were like, well, he's definitely dead because the shock should have killed him.
Yeah.
And so they weren't expecting him alive anyway. And they thought he had killed himself, but, they weren't 100% sure.
Yeah.
So they spent the night using torches to actually cut him out. And that's how they didn't get him. This happened they started doing that stuff at 5 p.m. They got into the Killdozer at 2 a.m. in the morning.
Wow.
That's how much long it took. It took hours to make sure like I said, the machine wasn't booby trapped and had get through the armor. It wasn't until the next morning that Marvin's body was removed. He had shot himself in the he put the gun in his mouth and pointed it upwards.
Brain?
Yeah, right.
Was the word your brain was looking for brain?
Yeah, I was looking for brain.
Okay. Just checking.
Marvin's body was removed. Inside, they found the 3 rifles, 3 handguns, and enough food and water to last a week.
Wow. But still no shitter.
He's got something against it, man.
That dude's a camel. That dude's a camel. He's just, I'm gonna hold it in.
The town's damage totaled $5 million, with $2 million of it belonging to the concrete plant.
Wow.
Sad side note: they were only insured for $700,000.
Oh, so
1.2.
So if they had sold to him or bought for $1 million, they would have actually made out better.
Right.
If they bought his plot for $1 million.
Searching Marvin's home, they found a list of 107 people he thought had wronged him.
Oh God.
The Dochefs, the owners of the concrete plant, were at the top of the list, but also judges, politicians, newspaper editors, and anyone else involved in the case.
Spider-Man.
He was pissed off the newspaper editor because the guy who ran the newspaper was like, "Yeah, I'll do a story about you, and you can buy some ads. You're a businessman. You've seen that happen. It happens all the time." And the newspaper guy could never catch up with Heemeyer to do the story because he was always out and about. And the mall shop was never open. Just it was fun money, and so he was mad that they're giving me a bad name. They won't cover me because I'm the outsider, and this is a good old boys thing. And so that's why he was mad at the newspaper. Afterwards, the bulldozer was dismantled, and the scrap was sent to different salvage yards to prevent souvenir hunters. Some townsfolk thought it should be kept and put into a museum because tourism
belongs in a museum.
Because we now are down $5 million.
Yeah.
Until someone gets the idea to resurrect the tank. Right? I think I can fix that.
Just take out the firing
Insert
pin or
some angry mechanic.
Yeah.
I know what's wrong with that thing.
The janitor of the museum has been who's been looked down upon the last 40 years of him working there and mopping the floor.
He's not a good old boy.
He's like, I can go get a bag full of diesel. Let's go.
Yeah. Round 2, fight.
It also came to light that the Colorado's governor at the time had looked into either having the National Guard use Apache attack helicopters or a 2-man fire team equipped with anti-tank missiles to stop the machine. These measures were dismissed because of the potential for a missile strike in the heart of Granby, Colorado. They're like, that could be too much collateral damage.
What time of year was that? Did you say?
It is June 4th.
So the reason I was
as hell in that tank.
Well,
air conditioned fans.
The reason I was asking
and
though
video
is
monitors.
You said he was only 50 miles outside the Rocky National Park.
Right.
Well, if it's winter and they shoot those missiles, you're having avalanches in those mountains, right? Like that's allowed enough. I don't know. 50 miles might be a little far enough away, but
yeah,
that's a danger you would have to think of if it's December.
So Marvin Heemeyer sent 3 audio tapes to his brother in South Dakota before the attacks, and of course his brother turns it over to the FBI. On the audio tapes, he tried to explain the motivation, saying, "God built me for this job. That God had planned him not to marry or have a family so he could be in position to carry out the attack. It was his duty. God asked him to do this. It's a cross that he was going to carry, and he was going to carry it in God's name. He was willing to be reasonable until he had to be unreasonable. Sometimes reasonable men must do unreasonable things."
So God said, go to Mayberry and mess it up.
Apparently.
Not Colorado City,
right.
Not Denver, not Aspen, not where anybody with any influence is.
Yeah.
What? Granbury.
Yep.
Granbury, population 2,000. God says, fuck it up.
Hey, look, God works in mysterious ways, man.
Yeah, you never know.
I am not here to say that that's not true. I'm here to say that that's not likely.
So that is the story of Marvin Heemeyer. The sources for this is The Terror in Granby by Tom Bagsarian. That's his name. And I love this one. This is from a magazine called The Concrete Producer.
Yes.
There's a concrete producing magazine from April 14th, 2016. Tiffs predated zoning fight land deal issue took places before town squabbles by Patrick Brower. For Sky High News, the news that was crushed November 2017.
Aren't they on every plane now?
Yep. The Strange Story of Killdozer and the Man Behind It by John Donanan for howstuffworks.com, howstuffworks.com, and the story of Marvin Heemeyer, Revenge and His Killdozing by John Kurowski, March 2008 for all things that's interesting. And most importantly, there is a fabulous documentary on Netflix called Tread that I wish everyone to watch.
And Cool's teaming up with a good balanced breakfast.
Teaming up with Mr. T cereal. It's getting on the team that knows how cool breakfast can be. You get a crispy corn taste with a touch of brown sugar. Teaming up with Mr. T.
It's cool.
Teaming up with Mr. T. Golden sweet crispy teas. One bite and you're gonna be eating with a team that's teaming up with Mr. T.
It's cool.
Teaming up with Mr. T.
Before I let you go, I want to talk comics with you because you publish comics.
Yep.
With FLatline Comics, and you've been doing it now for
12
years. 12 years.
Yeah, we've been making comics for 12 years. We rebranded from our customer-facing logos and products from Inverse Press to FLatline Comics about a year ago, and it's been going really well. We've seen quite a bit of growth, and you can find any of our comics. They're mostly horror-based. We have some sci-fi and some high fantasy at FLatlineComics.com. We just finished up our biggest Kickstarter ever last week. Comics and boxes are in. We're in the middle of a big fulfillment, so there's a lot going on. It's been a lot of fun.
So talk a little bit about some of the comics. So I know you got Vicious Circus and
our
FT.
Flagship title is Vicious Circus. It's a different twist on the killer clown horror genre in that instead of eating kids like Pennywise or the killer clowns from outer space, our clowns kill child abusers. You get the same dark humor, the same kind of clown-centric kills and things like that. But the targets are actually reprehensible human beings that you enjoy seeing get their comeuppance.
Right.
and we've put them in a lot of different scenarios. We just released this year our first Halloween special for 2021 and our first Christmas special in 2021. Very different flavors, but using the same group of characters. Santa Claus is a central character in our Christmas special, a very big protagonist. I don't want Santa Claus axing kids or, you know, as we've seen traditionally in Christmas horror movies. That is our flagship. I've also got a steampunk type of post-apocalyptic Western called Last Ride of the Four Horsemen. Launching a new one here in a couple of weeks, 2 weeks from tomorrow. Launching the next issue of that. And we're a few hundred pages deep in the continuity on that book as well. And the big one we just kickstarted was called The Black Hand. It's written by Erica Heflin, our partner in all of this, and just beat out our biggest Vicious Circus campaign by a little bit, but our most funded and most backed project ever.
It's a high fantasy tale.
Yeah, it's a horror, undead type of story about a knight who finds that she has the ability to slay the dead with a touch. But she's not sure which dead are evil and which ones are good. And so it's a dilemma 4-issue series, really a lot of fun, beautifully illustrated by Ferris Mace from Mexico. And a lot of big stuff coming out this year. More Vicious Circus. Erica and Amanda Rachel, my partner in Flatline, have a book coming out called Satanic Panic. It's a Vicious Circus story. Probably by the end of next month. So lots going on.
What? Okay, it's easy to say you get into comics for the love of it because that's what you do. It's a you know I'm inspired by you and I've followed you with us publishing our own books because like, well, Kevin could do it and he's doing it. Looks like he's having fun, and so I was like,
I couldn't stop if I wanted to.
Right. And so, but what are the challenges that you face? You're 12 years in, so you've got the growing pain stuff out of the way.
Yeah.
So what are the challenges you're facing nowadays with growing your brand in the comics? What's the difficulties?
Gatekeeping into certain aspects of the market, and just the very realistic economic realities of the traditional comic market. So what I mean by that is getting comics into comic stores is a huge investment for almost no return or negative return. It's not something that it's not a risk I'm willing to take as a basically 2 to 3 person operation. To get comics in the stores, you have to go through distributors who take the bulk of your profit and leave you with nothing unless you're printing 10 to 100,000 books. It's not reasonable.
Right.
And there are a few stores that'll work with us and will buy our books and get a very nice discount for them, and 50-60% discount depending on the store. But if you do that through a distributor, the distributor's taking the bulk of what you would get, and then you're negative.
Right.
And that's all distributors. It's fractured. The comic distribution is fractured in the last couple of years since COVID started. And it hasn't helped the smaller publishers at all. And the guys I know that publish on our level that do it are bleeding money. And it's not, I'm not in it to take those kind of risks. So that's just, we cannot get into comic stores on any large level. There's, the gatekeeping I was referring to is with the distributors. You either can't get a response or they tell you to go to a different publisher. Well, then I'm giving my IP to somebody else that I don't know if they're going to treat me fairly or not.
Absolutely.
And most of them aren't. And they'll tell you that up front. It's in the contract. They're going to own everything for X number of years, and then it might revert to you, but you're probably going to fight them for it in the end. And I'm not just, we work too hard to put our stuff at risk like that. And with the advent of crowdfunding, through Kickstarter, through Patreon, through various other methods, we can make books, and we don't pocket much or any of that money, to be honest, but we're able to break even and publish comics. And, that's a lifelong thing I've wanted to do, and to be able to do it without breaking the bank and putting ourselves at financial risk has been awesome. And I'll continue to do it. We have seen growth, and hopefully that means it will be a profitable enterprise at some point.
And I'm a small part of helping you guys out with doing your videos for your Kickstarter and stuff. And so I've done, we counted the last time, I was like up to 40, maybe close to 50 videos I've made for. So, I mean, I've been with you almost every month. We're doing something kind of different. It's kind of fun. And so I've definitely seen the growth since over the years. And so I'm awe-inspired. I'm definitely, you are an inspiration to me again, because I've only got the 2 books out, and then we're working on others. But I wouldn't have done it without seeing you do it first. And so,
well, I appreciate it. It's taken a lot of work and a lot of learning, and we are kind of in a routine from a logistical and financial standpoint in terms of how we manage things. And to be honest, Ann and I do 95% of the work in terms of she handles all the shipping, God bless her, and I handle a lot of the design. I get help from Erica with not just the writing side, she's a brilliant writer, but she does a lot of our lettering. But I also do a lot of lettering. File management takes up a lot of my time every day, getting pages together.
How do you guys do the lettering in my book? So I understand.
Pre-press work takes so much time.
Absolutely.
So it's a time-consuming enterprise. I retired from my state job last year. It's hard to believe I could do that, but I did.
Well, you've been doing it since you were like 12.
Yeah. Yeah. So to do this full time, and our output has increased. We've seen better results just because having the time to put into it. But from a marketing standpoint, it's hard to get the word out if you don't have a distribution through the comic shops.
Right.
And again, I'm just that's the biggest obstacle is getting into the traditional comics market. And I have people that I could work with to do that, but then I'm not just putting myself at financial risk. I'm putting them at financial risk. It's tough.
Right.
These are difficult decisions. And honestly, I think 9 out of 10 people that walk into comic shops want the same old Marvel and DC and don't want to see anything new.
Right.
And we see that at cons. We see a lot of people that want new stuff at cons, but there are always folks who, if you're not making Deadpool or Harley Quinn or Batman, they don't know what you're doing.
Right. That's
and they're
true.
Not really interested. It's a shrinking minority of con goers, because we have seen improvement in con sales, but it's there.
My favorite, and I've told you the story before, but my favorite story from a con, because when I did the first con with the first book, the steampunk book, I had someone pick up the book, look at the art, asked if I was the artist. I said no, and they said, "Okay, thank you." Put the book down and walked away.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, "But I wrote it. Without me, the pictures don't make you help."
Conceived it, wrote the script, which takes a lot of time.
Absolutely.
A lot of technical know-how.
Absolutely.
Made a relationship with an artist, paid
And
said artist
to do it.
But the only thing that matters is the artist.
Right. Which look, artists are important. I'm not saying they're not.
Critical.
But I would like comics fans, especially indie comics fans, to understand that there's more than one person involved.
Yeah.
And so you might enjoy the story.
And I think that is shifting. The way that we've kind of designed our contour for the past couple of years, and COVID has something to do with that because so many cons shut down, that we do regional shows, not big shows, where outside of Florida has a lot of small publishers. Outside of Florida, we may be one of 1 to 3 small comics publishers in the whole show.
Mm-hmm.
And so people are looking for new comics. We're your sole option.
Right.
There might be one other one. Sometimes we're at shows with you. Sometimes we're at shows with my buddy Martin Piero from Cosmic Times. And we were in Northwest Arkansas, like right at the border of Missouri and Oklahoma out there this past week. And there was one other comic publisher, and they had like one book, and everything else was like, sexy anime prints at their booth. But we had, we've kind of designed our booth to like almost like a bookstore now.
Right. I saw the new pictures. They look great.
And so when people come up, they're like, "Oh, actual comics." And we have people say that, "Oh, you guys make actual comics," and it feels good. It's a nice selling point to offer something they can't get anywhere else, and that's kind of the angle that we're going from. And hopefully the access issues will improve. We have a few stores that buy from us, but we take a loss even when we sell to stores now.
Right.
To give them the discount that they need to keep their doors
Right,
open.
right.
And I definitely understand the value of comic shops, and I want to, and I will give them a discount that's consistent with what they get from the distributors. We just don't have to give our portion to the distributors.
Right.
Because if we did, we'd be deep in the red.
Right.
So it's an evolving situation as far as the entire comic market. But there are a lot of guys in our shoes.
Right.
There are not many of them down here in Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, even Georgia. But in the Northeast and the West Coast, there are a lot. And Florida's chock full of people making their own comics. This is just a large population. But that group of people is modifying the market in some ways. And we are all getting to know one another. So I do foresee some changes. I don't know what that'll look like.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe one day.
One thing I noticed, and I talked to you about this too a while back, but like Kickstarter, I did the Kickstarter. You can look at like how past comics have done.
Yep.
And so, and the higher end stuff seems to be like, I made the joke, but it's true. There was a comic that had raised $46,000 off of like a $1,200 goal, but it was basically sexy anime cat lady.
If you can rephrase that, if you want to take your time and talent to make sexy anime cat comic, you're going to make a lot of money.
Right.
And I could do that, but that's not why I make comics.
Right.
And we did $12,000 on a 4-issue series with one set of covers,
right,
one collector box, and then some add-ons. And you could argue that the character is attractive, and I don't have any problem with anybody putting out whatever they want to make.
Me neither. But I
in terms of just what I want to make.
Right. Same here. And so I was looking at it like more of a, I work in marketing, so I'm like, what works?
Yeah.
And so, I do a line that have could have attractive characters in it. And so I'm trying to figure out, almost like it's a moral decision, like what's compromising to what I enjoy. Because again, I write comics for a reason. I write comics for me. I have stories in my head. I want to get them out. But they're also not those kind of stories that you would find in a sexy cat anime story. It just you say you could write a sexy cat anime. I could, but is it good? But then in the day, are they looking for good? I'm not sure what those readers are looking for. I can't draw the sexy cat anime lady. However, but I did think about like, offering a cheesecake cover. To see, we're definitely going to do it on the next run for the next issue. I'm going to find an artist who specializes in that, pay them to do a cover for me, and see if that helps sales. And because if I can, because at the end of the day, if they're going to look at it for the art, I'd rather them read the whole issue and enjoy the whole issue. But maybe I'll get a percentage out of that, and then I'll build a fan base that way.
Right.
And so I'm curious for the experiment to see what my rate of return is going to be for that.
Yeah, I think a lot of how far you can go with that depends on how much you can tie the cheesecake factor to your story and have people care about the story too.
Right.
Which I think is sort of what you just said. But the most obvious example is Brian Pulido, who, of course, has paid his dues over and over again. The guy's been in comics since the late 80s.
Absolutely.
Probably. The guy just raced back to Lady Death a few years ago, and he's dropping $500,000 Kickstarters once a quarter, just about. They did over $400,000 in 6 hours.
We gotta figure that out.
It's world-class audience building on an established brand that he's had going since the mid-90s.
Right.
You can't duplicate it.
I think I still have some Lady Death action figures in the closet.
Oh, yeah, man. It's crazy, and more power to him. I'm so happy to see somebody who has had such a rocky road legally, with the IP, with his intellectual properties over the years, get back in with one of his intellectual properties, create a few more around it, and then just totally own Kickstarter.
Absolutely.
It's really sweet to me to see. And I think, Kickstarter tends to be kind of ultra PC in some ways. And that doesn't, they don't censor anything like that, but they wouldn't spotlight those. But recently, because of his success, I think just primarily because of their success with the Lady Death and the Hell Witch and all those titles, they have started to push those titles.
Well, they have to, because at the end of the day, they need the draw to the page.
They're making a ton of money.
They're making They're making a ton of money off this guys. Yeah. Outside of what they're going to take of the percentage.
They're making 4 figures off of me from the one we just did.
Right.
Great. I'm happy to share that, because without Kickstarter, comics I'm not sure how much comics would exist anymore.
Without Kickstarter, I don't think how much tertiary and independent comics would. Yeah. I think currently the DC Marvel situation, they are in-house IP drivers for Warner Brothers and Disney.
Sure.
And so, honestly, I don't think neither one of Disney or Warner Bros. Cares about the comics.
Yeah.
I don't think they make money. I think they lose money, and I think they're okay with that because they'll make money. They make it up in the merchandising and the film rights and stuff. So it's a nicety that they're just going to allow for so long. But Warner Bros. Is not. I mean, Warner Bros. Has been hard on DC. They kicked them out of the offices. They've moved them around. There's not many most of them working from home. There's not a lot.
Yeah, it's all shifting, and
it's interesting what the future is going to hold. I'm hoping that it breaks just enough for people like us to shine a bit, because I think I love your comics. I love you as a writer. I think, full discretion, you're one of my best friends. Of course, I'm gonna love your writing, but I'm honest. I'm gonna love your writing. You've got IP that I can see, like we all hope to make the next jump to
other media,
like like Fish and Circus should be a great Shudder series.
Yeah.
I mean, just like it's great. It just needs the right eye on it. And that's the problem, is trying to get the right eye on it.
Right. And that's another part of the gatekeeping thing.
Absolutely.
It's just getting people, and that's a networking issue that's hard to solve.
Right.
It's hard to decipher that. I mean, we've got a guy who produces Stephen King movies that lives in our hometown.
Right.
And we have an indirect connection there, but getting appropriate and well-timed and
we're trying to get all the stars to align to make that happen.
Well, and to do it in a way that's social and not just trying to make a cash grab of somebody.
Right.
That's what I'm trying to get at. To do it in a way that's classy.
Right.
To do it in a way with some deftness. That's what I'm trying to say.
Right.
Is tough.
Mm-hmm.
But you never know. We're working hard and trying to get eyes on what we do, and it's working. Like you say, you've seen the growth, and I hope it'll continue. There are a lot of challenges, but I try to focus more on the creative side of it and getting the books done than on the challenges. And we try to iterate every year what we do, how we handle the business, so that part grows too. As we make more books, as we generate more IP, that we are adjusting our strategy not only to sell more, but to increase the potential for the IP.
Well, Kevin, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, man.
I love
Anytime.
talking Decipher. I love talking G.I. Joe. Definitely love talking comics. You are always welcome on the show.
I'm happy to come back.
Amanda
anytime.
and Erica also are welcome if they ever want to come talk
Sure.
up there. All three of you come on. We'll talk Inverse Press.
That'd be great.
We'll talk horror stuff. Well, it'd be fun because I got a couch. We got a lot of mics. We can hold everybody.
They are great at the horror talk.
So thank you so much for indulging me and coming and chatting on my little show.
Anytime, man.
All right, man.
Happy to do it.
Kevin LaPorte, FLatline Comics. Go read his stuff. It's great.
Thanks, everybody.
I know my own needs. And what I need from an automobile, I know I get from this new Cordova. I could ask for nothing beyond the quality of Cordova's workmanship, the tastefulness of its appearance. I request nothing beyond the thickly cushioned luxury of seats available even in soft Corinthian leather. Yet it is on the highway where Cordova best answers my demands. I have much more in this small Chrysler than great comfort at a most pleasant price. I have great confidence, for which there can be no price. In Cordova, I have what I need.
And that was Kevin. Kevin was great. I loved Kevin. Kevin, I hope you guys had. I had fun. Kevin texted me and said he had fun too. So that was good. And we got all the info on how to go find his comics. Go find his comics. And so speaking of things that you can help us out, if you're listening to us on a podcast, please rate and subscribe. If you're not listening to us on a podcast, you can rate and subscribe and find us on any podcast where there's podcasts. There we are. That's where we live. That's where we live. Also, you can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Tuesdays with Scotty. And then if you don't see our smiling faces, you can watch us on YouTube at youtube.com/Mopcast Network. I think that's about it. Anything else we need to cover? It's been a long show. It's a long show.
I think we got everything.
All right, cool. Well, this is Scotty saying this is our contribution to the multiverse. God make yours!